You can also like and comment and subscribe for more video game urban legends, myths, and rumors and secrets and oddities. Enjoy. I want to start with some Sonic the Hedgehog urban legends. I made a joke in my Sonic Adventure Mysteries and Urban Legends video about people talking about some kind of creature appearing in Mystic Ruins for them. Even though I was just messing around, I did actually hear someone mentioning this prior, which is where I got the idea from. Apparently someone did see something running through Mystic Ruins before, given they weren't also joking. I don't remember where I heard this from. I think it was a long time ago when I was younger. I don't remember if they gave a description for it or not. I think they just said they saw something. There's always a chance it could be some kind of glitch, but with this being my favorite game and me researching all the known versions of Sonic Adventure 1, I've never heard of a glitch like this or, obviously seeing some kind of cryptid in Mystic Ruins. Maybe you saw the unused ghost that was supposed to appear in Red Mountain. On to the next urban legend, the Tails doll. This is more of a creepypasta, but I'm still going to count it. It's funny seeing the new generation talk about all this Tails doll stuff online as well, kind of like how gmod had a resurgence. It makes me happy knowing the stuff I saw and played as a kid is being passed down and archived. I'm almost 28 and seeing all this stuff again just puts me in a good nostalgic mood. Onto the Tails doll curse though, if I remember correctly, you have to tag Super Sonic as a Tails doll and play Living in the City backwards or something. I remember seeing a lot of videos like this when I was younger. Most are probably lost media now, because I did try to look some of these up again and I couldn't find them. I remember a video of someone filming a red light in their house, and they did a really good job at animating or moving something around said house. I think the Tails doll had a knife in its hand or something. If anyone remembers this video, then let me know, because I'd really like to see it again. I wanted to mention the reason for Tails doll inclusion in Sonic R, since a lot of people don't know, is the background designer / character designer for Sonic R and Sonic Adventure, Yoshitaka Miura, was working on those games at the same time. He simply reused the idea of a Tails doll from Final Egg or vice versa, or so the story goes anyway. I think this was stated in 2013. I wish we could have seen a Metal Tails instead, to be honest, instead of the doll. Alright, so I'm starting up Sonic Gems collection here, because I don't feel like plugging in my Saturn, but this'll do. This'll do for now, so let's just begin. Going to load up one of my save files, and in the curse, I believe it was, I think Tails doll has to tag Super Sonic. I think that was in the creepypasta, so yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that. I haven't read that since I was a kid. Alright, we're catching up to him again. We're catching up to him again. Oh, I tagged him. I got him. I just got it. Took me almost 12 minutes to do. Alright, well, we did it. There it is. Well, I'm going to exit now. We got the Tails doll curse, so... This one isn't that much of an urban legend, but it was always speculated that the Angel statue and Wacky Workbench in Sonic CD belonged to a scrapped R2 level, which had more information released about it recently, such as a drawn concept map for it and 2 names given for it. I believe one was Dubious Depths, and I don't remember what the other one was. I would say the statue doesn't have a purpose, but it does give you an infinite amount of rings if you keep walking in and out of the room. It's very mysterious though. It's this really highly detailed angel statue. Normally developers are under really strict time constraints and they wouldn't typically put something like this in the game. So that's why people believe that this statue here belonged to that R2 level. They just simply, didn't want to let the asset go to waste, so they just put it down here. Really interesting. I should mention this is a statue of Robotnik in the bad future as well. Let's talk about some Gary's Mod urban legends and rumors. There have been quite a few urban legends in Gmod since its creation in 2004. These legends mostly come from later years. These rumors were mostly about strange figures, kind of like Herobrine in Minecraft. There's a bunch of videos showing ghosts in the classic RP map, RP Downtown. In RP Downtown V2, another rumor with some proof is that the creator of this map supposedly passed away, making these sightings a bit more eerie. I've also heard sightings in Big City as well, but those are less common. There's a few creepy Easter eggs on the map, though, that I'm sure everybody already knows about. Another one of these urban legends is a figure known as Meaty, which is pretty popular in the Russian community of Gmod. This meaty creature is said to appear in the dark room and in the water on Construct. It's supposedly a gray figure that just creeps around the map and causes the game to crash. There's not much proof of this or rumors. There's a few sighting videos, but it's obviously just fake. Pretty cool though. It's a pretty cool urban legend and mystery. There's also, of course, the rumor of the supposed G-Man virus that appears in one of Kiddio706's videos. Rest in peace also, and thank you for the memories. This virus would rebind all of your controls and then play a screamer with the G-Man's face texture stretched around the screen. then open a bunch of adult websites in your browser. It's not known if this was ever a real virus, but there is some evidence to it, such as some Steam forums posts regarding said virus. When I first started playing Gmod in 2011, I remember something similar happening to me, except it wasn't a virus. It was on an old version of Flatgrass, where it just has that one rectangular square on the ground. It's not the one with the structure or building. That was more recent, I think. But anyway, when I was playing this, the owner of the server played a really loud noise and then filled my screen with an image of that one meme involving someone on top of a fast food bucket. That was pretty good introduction to the game, honestly. Everybody already knows about this one, the Gray Bouncy Ball. This is a rumor or urban legend involving an achievement called Finally a Gray One, where you go to the Fun and Game section in the spawn menu under Entities and spawn a gray ball from it. There's a few colors you can get from spawning these, but there's actually no way to spawn a gray one. I believe it was red, blue, yellow, green, I think it was. I'm kind of reading off script right now. But as it turns out, this achievement is impossible to get because it doesn't even exist, actually. So that's another urban legend in itself. That the achievement just does not exist. It's not on the achievement page, and it never was. So I have no idea where this rumor came from. Supposedly it's also from the Russian Gmod community. I'm not sure. But it's actually, it's funny that people are saying like this is an impossible achievement to get when the achievement doesn't even exist at all either. The next one is what people call Semper. It's Gordon's model from Half-Life 2, just a great placeholder model that is said to appear in others' games randomly, kind of like the ghost of Halo. This urban legend or rumor is actually true to some extent. Some theorize it's caused due to glitches or add-ons. It's still pretty eerie seeing it on your map that you are playing on though, especially from a distance. I don't know what this could be caused by, like I said. I think it is with add-ons. I think it's just an error caused by add-ons. There have been some reports, though, of it actually moving around the map, which, of course, that could also be caused by glitches. Maybe it's not paranormal. Who knows? Now on to some Halo urban legends. I don't need to make an introduction to the Halo games regarding how many Easter eggs and oddities are in them, but let's start with the Tri-Gate mysteries and urban legends. These are mostly talked about in Halo 2 and 3, not so much in the other games in the series, because, you know, the graphics are getting better. There's not too much texture problems going on. But these tri-gates are just texture oddities that usually appear as triangles and other odd shapes, some resembling faces. Most of us were a lot younger back then, so some of this stuff was pretty believable unless you knew it was just some odd texture pattern. The reason it was believable is just due to how many secrets are in the Halo games. It seemed like anything could be in them, and some things may be left undiscovered. That goes for a lot of retro games also. I'm not calling Halo retro by any means, I'm just simply stating that a lot of older games have that kind of stuff in them. It seems like, you know, anything's possible in those games back in the day. Anyway, some examples of tri-gates include one underwater in the mission Delta Halo, where you have to get out of the map with a ghost near the start of the area and then go down into the water where this strange-looking triangle wall is. This one is a bit different from the rest. It's not just a texture, it looks like it's actually modeled into the cliffside. I have no explanation for this one. It genuinely looks like a door, though. In Halo 3, there's another one in the mission The Ark where you have to get out of the map and run a long distance across some outer structures. This one isn't as interesting as some of the other ones. This really is just an odd texture on the wall that's like flipped. I think that's what we got the footage anyway.
Alright.
Aside from the Tri-Gate stuff, there's also the urban legend that's somewhat true, the ghosts of Halo. There were many sightings of these ghosts back in the day in Halo 2 all the way up to 4. These ghosts look like any other kind of player, typically with one armor color, no animations playing. In Halo 2, they can throw plasma grenades, they slide around the map and go after other players, often turning invisible and teleporting around as well. There's a lot of explanations for these. Some say it's other players with really bad connections or an unused feature such as scripted bots. Whatever the explanation is, they are really creepy, especially some of the footage others captured where the models contort in single-player Forge sessions. I apologize not having footage for this one also. Next up is the Cave of 1,000 Faces. I'm sure everybody already knows about this one. I consider this one an urban legend as well, as I've heard stories when I was younger on mid-2000s internet forums talking about how this was a step to unlocking recon armor. The cave is a strange and kind of creepy out-of-bounds area in Halo 3 on Sierra 117. This one is most well known for being a spot where you can encounter another member of the monkey family, but past that creature is the cave. It's called the Cave of 1,000 Faces because the texture inside of the cave resembles, well, a bunch of faces if you look closely at it. Considering the player can't really see this normally, I wonder if this was planned for something during development. Maybe there was more to the mission at some point. Yeah, look at this place over here. Look how beautiful this is. It's like, you know, on the moon in Majora's Mask. You know, it's beautiful. It's called. There it is.
Are there school heathens here? Skulls?
No. This is literally just a hole in the ground with nothing in it. But like the reason why it's called the Cave of a Thousand Faces is because you can kind of see faces in the textures on the rock if you look close enough, like all over the place.
I saw that myself.
Yeah, they're like all over.
I'm seeing that right now.
Yeah, I see one of them. It looks like an eye. Really weird stuff. RuneScape Urban Legends. There's a few random events that were said to exist back in the early days of RS2. I'm a very late 05 player, basically 06 player, so I might have missed some of these supposed random events if they did actually exist. As a RuneScape archiver, I've never seen proof of these events existing, but, you know, it's always possible. There's just not any information known about them in the cache files from 2004 to 2008 as far as I'm aware. One rumor stated that there was some kind of worm random event that would happen while mining, despite the rock golem and broken pickaxe existing at the time anyway, which is kind of points against this urban legend and rumor, but I've seen a screenshot of this supposed event before, but I could never find that screenshot again after. I think it was the only one of this event. I think it would have to be fake though. Surely there would be more evidence for its existence. I've also heard a few playground rumors of random events that would permanently drain your stats, meaning they would just take your levels away, which obviously never happened. That caused so many issues with the game if that was the case. Jax did used to do this for some rule breakers in the early days of the game, and now they have unique and very interesting accounts. Onto another urban legend and rumor. This one is a recent one, or at least I think it is. I first started seeing this rumor appear on V as well as other boards on 4chan while I was browsing video game mysteries threads a few years ago. It's a rather obscure rumor that states there's a realistic map of New York City in the game itself, or the game itself is based on New York somehow. There's also a theory that's been posted multiple times about how there was an experiment involving RuneScape that took place in New York City. This study was about examining the players of RS to find patterns between others. When they sign off, when they sign in, how they interact with others. The conclusion was that most players didn't have a schedule in the game and just signed in, leveled up combat stats, and then signed off without interacting with anyone. However, there was a single server in which all the players would sign in and sign out at the same time and also interact with everybody that they came across. This kind of stuff has been researched in MMOs before, like the Corrupted Blood incident in World of Warcraft. However, I don't think this one is real. The Anon who posted this one wrote about the game and the study as if he didn't know anything about RuneScape, and there's also some nonsensical stuff in his post, like saying players spent 7 hours traveling to a bakery to cook, and then going to taverns. He also makes mention of inns as if it's a common thing in the game to go visit the Blue Moon Inn in Varrock or something. Whoever wrote the post about this rumor definitely did not play the game at all. The third RuneScape urban legend and rumor is about the Ring of Wealth. This is one that I wrote about on my blog a few years ago in my post about RuneScape mysteries, oddities, secrets, and trivia. When I was younger, and even still today, I feel like there's more to the Ring of Wealth. For those who don't play RuneScape, it's a ring that was introduced in April of 2004. It affects the rare drop table that certain monsters have, which existed before the ring, as rings obviously couldn't be enchanted in RS1. The rare drop table was very useful back then after membership was first released, as you could get a Dragon Med Helm, and especially more rare, the shield left half. Nowadays, the drop table isn't useful at all, even on an iron, and it'll make you terrible after seeing one of these drops when you're going for certain items when fighting late-game bosses. I just got a Dragon Med Helm from Serb a few weeks ago, for example. It's over 1 in 5,000 from Serb's rare drop table. You know, I could have gotten anything else there. What the Ring of Wealth does is almost useless outside of Gorax. When equipped, it will remove all the empty slots off the rare drop table, making the drop slightly more common from it. If the ring existed in RS1, it would have been amazing, but now it's just kind of useless in RS2 and then OSRS. There's an actual luck stat in RS3 though, so it might be useful there. I think also it had some kind of different effect in late RS2. There was a Myth and Rumors live stream by OSRS gmods, and in this stream was one about the Ring of Wealth affecting clue scroll caskets. The strange thing is they held a vote for viewers whether or not this is true or false. And obviously everyone voted no because it's ridiculous to think that the ring would affect clue scrolls, but surprisingly one of the J-mods said it did have an effect on opening them. This confused many in the chat and everyone assumed the J-mod was just trolling or made a mistake. I had a theory on my blog that there is an invisible luck stat in the game that is affected by quest choices, like taking the gold tools from the Priest and Perils quest for example, but you know, who really knows? There's only a handful of Dark Souls related myths and urban legends as the game was released in late 2011. The first one I want to mention is a rumor that those who got the game early somehow were invaded by developers of the game who all wore the same unspecified armor combinations. I could never find proof for this one, and it's almost never talked about even when the game was released. I've heard that some of the armor the developers supposedly wore were the Royal Helm and some of Domhnall's armor that he sells. Obviously, when speaking of Dark Souls, I have to mention the pennant, which you can choose as a starting gift and obtain as an item from the Forest Hunter Covenant. The description of this item states it has no effect, but gives the holder fond memories, which is seemingly important for an adventure so they don't go hollow. but it doesn't really have a purpose outside of that one lore reason and it being given to Snuggly the Crow for a souvenir of reprisal. Hidetaka Miyazaki said multiple times around the release of the game that he would never state the actual purpose of the pendant. I remember me and my friends trying for weeks to figure something out with it. Even though there is a small purpose for it, which slightly helps with the offline souvenir grind, it really does feel like it would do something else in the game as well. There's a lot of unused stuff in Dark Souls 2, but there was a rumor that the unused barrel armor was hidden in the game somewhere and players could obtain it given the right circumstances. It wasn't very unbelievable at first given how much stuff is hidden in Dark Souls 2, but if this was the case, it would have to be found by now. Undertale and Deltarune, there's only a few urban legends to talk about in these games. The first one I want to bring up that persisted for a long time was that the survey program version of Deltarune detects whether or not you've done No Mercy in Undertale or not. And the reason why I'm calling it No Mercy is just because I don't want to get demonetized, so I apologize for that. As far as I'm aware, there's no proof for this, whether or not the survey program version actually detects whether you've done No Mercy in Undertale. I don't think this is real because if it was, you'd be hearing theory videos on it to this day and everybody would still be talking about it. I might have some details on this next one incorrect as it's been a very long time since I've read about this, but I believe there was some early version or demo of Undertale that was released before the final game came out. Possibly for testers, but I'm unsure and I can't find details of it online anymore. I didn't try too hard to look, but I just couldn't find it right away, so... In this early demo or prototype of Undertale, there was a few weapons you could obtain, and one of them was a toy knife. Many people theorized or suggested that there was a way to get a real knife in the game, and this spawned an urban legend that it was actually possible to find the real knife, despite it not existing yet. This might actually be the reason why there's a real knife in Undertale to begin with. You know how it's called like the worn dagger or real knife depending on the route you take. Might be because of this that people actually thinking there was a real knife in the game. Some people listed requirements and steps to obtain this supposed real knife, but I'm pretty sure it didn't exist in the game at that point. Fun event battles. There's been a lot of rumors of some secret hidden battles in Undertale that can happen through fun values, but this urban legend obviously isn't true. You know, as much as the game has been data mined, there's no evidence that this was ever the case. Some of these supposed bosses would be a Gaster fight and another dummy battle. What's interesting is that Gaster does have stats in the game's code, those being of course variations of the number 6 as usual. The only secret battles in the game are Glide and So Sorry. Grand Theft Auto is one of the series with the most rumors going for it, right alongside Pokemon. I won't mention Bigfoot or the ghost cards in San Andreas, outside of a certain situation that was pretty bizarre if it was real. It's actually a rumor in itself. There was a supposed interview with Terry Donovan, co-founder of Rockstar Games, where he allegedly stated something along the lines of, "There is no Bigfoot in the game, but there is something in the woods." Whatever that something is unknown. An urban legend from back in the day that made me think twice about going inside CJ's home was the rumor of the ghost girl who was said to come out of the TV like in The Ring, and also the rumor of the ghost of CJ's mother. I remember a lot of videos back in the day showcasing both of these, among other ones. But yeah, I was pretty young when I was playing San Andreas, so it did kind of creep me out a little bit. It did creep me out a little bit. In GTA 5, there's an urban legend similar to stories of the Ratman in GTA 4, not to be confused with the one from Portal. Both the Ratman from 4 and the maintenance tunnel ghost from 5 share a lot in common. Supposedly you can hear laughter or other kind of noises in these maintenance tunnels. This ghost also goes by the name of the sewer killer in the community. There's a bunch of different interpretations of what this is actually supposed to be. Maybe just a criminal in the tunnels, a ghost, or something else. It would probably be more creepy and atmospheric if I hopped out of my car here to go look around, but I don't know, I feel like it's... Oh look, there's the rat man right there. He's disguised as a rat. There he is. I haven't heard any noises yet aside from the generators that are down here. There's no... haven't seen any ghosts, just... Ooh. Is that from another player? I can't tell if that was above ground or not. Like, I don't think there's any players close to me, actually. That was the sound of a gunshot, but... So there's no players near me when that happened. There is actually no players around, but there was a gunshot noise. Well, guys, I couldn't find the ghost, but we did hear a sound effect down there that was pretty strange. There was no other players near. There's not too many urban legends with Team Fortress 2. Most of them involve ways of getting unusuals from crates easier, getting Australiums easier, or the TF2 freaks, which aren't really legends or rumors, but more so a form of creepypasta characters, if you could call them that. There are some genuine urban legends, though, such as mysterious creepy maps said to exist that lack proof of their existence, odd occurrences with other players online, and seeing certain creatures on certain maps. I think Valve adding casual matchmaking kind of ruined the appeal of mysteries and urban legends in the game, since it also kind of ruined community servers at the same time. TF2 also has a different kind of player base now since the original player base left. The new players joining never really heard of a COD lobby before, honestly. Back in the day, you'd join a lot of esoteric maps and odd communities. You could encounter really unique people and situations. Nowadays, it's very bland. Anyway, the point of this video is to talk about urban legends, so let's talk about the creature of Sawmill. I think I saw this on a different iceberg, but I also saw it talked about in some forums somewhere as well. There have been mentions of some kind of creature with a lack of details on it in Sawmill, which is one of my favorite maps, by the way. I really do like Sawmill. There's not much to be said on this one, but I assume people came up with this due to it being a closed-off area circled by trees. You know, it's just ripe for a rumor. You know, something just creeping around in the trees out there. Maybe the frog in the pond is the creature of legend that's spoken about. The next sighting is a more interesting one, as more obscure, and the places where it was mentioned are now gone as well, like the forums it was posted on. Maybe there's still some people talking about it out there, but I kind of doubt it. This is from way back in the day, actually. There have been players who have seemed to have genuinely saw some form of ghost on Viaduct, and I'm pretty sure they didn't mean Viaduct either. I find this one interesting because it seems more believable despite, you know, being able to look through the map and see there's no spawns for such a ghost. This being an online game and all, I feel like that's something that could actually happen. Unless they saw it offline, they could also be playing on a modified map too, which is another possibility or explanation for seeing a ghost. You want to know something weird? I thought that there was a frog on this map in a small pond. I guess I was thinking of a different map. Just really strange though, because I mean, this is my favorite map. I thought that there was a frog somewhere. Maybe I'm just missing it. It was in a pond just like this, you know. Now I'm just not seeing the frog anymore, so I guess it left. I guess the frog just left. So I certainly do not see it. Also, there's some strange noise here as well, which, by the way, walking through, I thought this was actually laughter for a second. I probably don't have the volume up too high, I apologize for that. I just added a bot to the map. I don't think it's scripted to run through Sawmill. Yeah, I was hoping for the bot to come out, because, you know, how else am I going to show off my double-spelled backburner, honestly? I like collecting these things. You know, well, I sold off most of my TF2 items anyway, so whatever, I guess. You know, it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, I'm not seeing any kind of Sawmill creature running around, to be fair. So, watch a jump scare just happen right now. Come on, guys. You know I wouldn't do that. Come on. You know I wouldn't do that. Yeah, you know, I was spawning in the scout because I was going to make a madcap joke, but, yeah, oh, well, it's time to go to Viaduct now, so let's head over to Viaduct. Alright, let's look around Viaduct now. So, I'm going to be looking near the tunnels because I remember that the one post I read online, right, from a while back, someone said they saw something in the actual tunnels, which is kind of creepy. So I'm assuming they meant these tunnels right here, right? I assume they meant these tunnels. I'm gonna no-clip in there, actually, in a minute. Let me just look around the map a little bit. Creature sightings on this map as well, being a thing, because I mean, like, look out there. There's just like an expanse out there that you can't go to. Let's just no-clip inside there. Let's have a look inside the tunnel. So, yeah, there's been reports of people hearing some, or not hearing, but just seeing ghosts inside this tunnel here, which is really bizarre, actually. You know, I'm kind of curious if this actually has collision out here. I'm going to turn no-clip off fast. Oh, it kind of has collision. Kind of, not really. So I just found something interesting. This place actually has collision up here. I've never been out of the map up here before. You know, obviously you can't get up here normally. It's just completely out of bounds. It reminds me of the out of bounds areas in Animal Crossing where you can, you know, just get close to the train. You can, you know, walk behind the town where you're not supposed to go. You know, I think you can do that in GameCube and New Leaf. Haven't played. I played the Wii one for a little while, for like a year or so, but obviously I didn't know how to get to the map in that one. I don't know if you can. Anyway, this video is not about Animal Crossing. Maybe I'll talk about that in part 2, so feel free to subscribe. And you can also like and comment to help the video out. If you want to, you don't have to. I appreciate you guys watching this, by the way. Like, I genuinely appreciate that. Actually, did I see that there before? There's particle effects here. That's actually strange. That is actually really strange, because the particle effects, you know, they're not supposed... Wouldn't they be up here where players can actually see them? Why would there be particle effects here? Maybe there is some truth to the ghost being in the tunnel. That's really odd. Also, you can barely even see them as well. Like, you have to get really close to the gate in order to see them. You know, this would be an out of bounds area on a community map where, you know, you'd go down the tunnel and then you'd see, well, you know, I want to stay monetized. So the first mystery on our list is one that I haven't seen a lot of people talk on. It's the snowman that's in Frozen Bell. And normally, you know, if it was just a regular snowman, there's not really much to talk about, but the head on this snowman looks like it has some kind of a beak with, I want to say glasses, but I don't think that's supposed to be glasses. It also has a ponytail and buttons, I think. It's very, very odd looking. There's no Nightmare or Nighttopian that actually looks like it in the game. I don't really know what this is supposed to be. It's probably self. This could potentially be an unused design for an enemy that we don't know about. There's nothing that has been found in the data mines for the game either yet that resemble this. It's just a very mysterious snowman in Frozen Bell. Very odd. You know that weird thing that falls out of Puffy's closet sometimes, seemingly at random? It has eyes on it. It kind of reminds me of an umbrella. I'm not sure if it's an umbrella or a lamp. I have no idea what that's supposed to be, but I recently was watching this video. I shouldn't say recently. It was quite a few months ago now at this point. It was by a YouTuber called Jiggy Lookback, and it was in his Nights video that he made. Yeah, I commented on this video because in the video itself, he actually gave an explanation on what the trigger is for activating that thing to fall out of Puffy's closet. You actually did a 2 on the timer during the boss fight. I think the 2 can be anywhere in the timer. Just as long as there's a 2 in there, that thing will fall out of the closet, and I actually tested this myself, and it worked. It kind of adds to the mystery of it. The fact that it's not even purely random, it actually requires a 2 in the timer to activate. That is so strange. And I commented on his video and I said that I never knew about the 2 being in the timer being the cause for that umbrella thing with the eyes on it to fall out of the closet. And I also brought up in the comment, I said something along the lines of, you know, I wonder if something similar is with Jackal's guillotine, even though, you know, all of us played through the game many times. If you're watching this video, I assume that you've played Nights before, but if you haven't, here you go, some new game to play. You can go and play it. I would recommend the Saturn version, but anyway. I also mentioned about Jackal's guillotine in the boss room. I was wondering if, you know, he actually knew the trigger for that one as well. And as it turns out, someone replied to my comment and said that's a thing that does not actually even exist. I've heard from multiple people online. One of them was DG Valentine. I don't know if you know about him. He's awesome. You should subscribe to him. But another one was on some forum online that was mentioning the same thing. Apparently, at random intervals, Jackal's guillotine will drop, but according to the reply I just got on this video, they were saying that, according to data miners, this is not something that can happen. There is no animations for this guillotine to actually drop. I saw this online on the one forum I was talking about, said that he saw it on a Nights wiki page. So what I'm assuming here, this is my theory, I think that both individuals, both DG Valentine and this forum user said, or they saw it on the wiki, and they assumed that it was legit, because, I mean, why wouldn't you assume that that's real? That is such an odd thing to have on a wiki, an oddly specific thing to have on a wiki. You know, I highly doubt that's someone trolling. That must be someone's false memory, or something else is going on here. I don't know, it's kind of creepy if you think about it. Even though it's just for a cartoon guillotine, still, it's just kind of odd that people have this memory of Jackal's guillotine sometimes dropping after you defeat him. It's very, very odd. And what I was saying before I interrupted myself was that, you know, there's no video footage of this actually, and I haven't seen it myself personally. I don't know if these two individuals saw it themselves or they just heard about it from the wiki page. But yeah, there's no records of this actually happening in the game, so I'm going to believe the data miners on this one, that there's no actual animation for it. And there's a very, very, and I mean extremely minuscule chance that someone has a copy of the game that somehow has this guillotine dropping whenever you defeat Jackal. But at that point, I don't know. You would have to somehow, the person that has that copy would have to trigger that and then write it on the wiki. So I'd have to assume that more people have that same copy, and you know, I want to say that we have most of the versions of Nights into Dreams. I mean, if there is some kind of specific copy that nobody knows about, that would be really jarring. Obviously, there's some beta prototypes. I'm not really talking about prototypes, though, but I guess that's the only thing it could be, right? You know, they wouldn't print some, like, 1,000 copies of a specific version that has changed. I mean, hey, you know, anything's possible, but I'm trying to think of another video game that actually has something like that. There's some Nintendo 64 games that did similar stuff, but that's like with version numbers and, you know, that's all documented and stuff, you know. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to say about this one, but it is very strange. It is very, very odd, especially, let's say both of these individuals did see this on the wiki. Just the fact that someone wrote that on the wiki itself, if that was someone's idea of trolling, they did an excellent job because, I mean, I'm here talking about it. Other people are talking about it in their videos. I don't think it's someone trolling. I really don't. I think someone somehow either saw this or has a false memory of it, which is, this is a whole other mystery on its own. It's very, very jarring. A lot of people know about this one. It's the scrapped Halloween level that was found in the PS2 version of the game while data mining, and even way, way long before this, there was a music track found that was also labeled just simply Halloween. I believe that's what the name was. It was just called Halloween. And the boss level would have been in Puffy's room, and aside from that, there's not really much else known about it aside from some reskins of the Nighttopians wearing imp or devil outfits, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I think everybody's already heard about this one before, so I don't really have too much to say about it. Nights. I don't have a lot to say about this one because there's almost nothing known about it aside from the fact it started development on the Saturn. It was going to be a Nights in Dreams sequel, kind of like, oh, I say kind of like Journey of Dreams. I'm mostly talking about the motion controls. So it was going to be a lot like Journey of Dreams in that sense. I don't know if any kind of story ideas made it over there. But yeah, this was a scrapped Nights game, which would have been awesome. And it actually moved over to the Dreamcast before being completely canceled. I would have loved seeing a Nights game on the Dreamcast, because that is like one of the coziest consoles, if not the coziest console of all time. I bet the game would have had an amazing aesthetic to go along with it. It was just, just imagine Nights on the Dreamcast, you know? The scrapped Claris level, so the internal name for Twin Seeds is P7 Elliott City, which implies Claris would have had her own version of the final level instead of just being a copy and paste of Twin Seeds. It's kind of odd playing the same level twice with, you know, both characters. To go along with this, there's also a name in the files for something labeled P8 Spiral Claris, which is the scrapped Claris level, and I believe Wiseman was supposed to be just the boss of it, considering Self was a secret boss. Who really knows, though? I think there might be evidence for what I said there in the files, but yeah, not much to be said about this one. There's no data left over for it aside from the name. I would have loved to see, you know, the background for it, just certain assets for the level. That would have been awesome to actually see that stuff. Maybe we'll find a prototype someday. The mysterious blue door. In pre-release footage of the game from E3, there's this mysterious blue door that can be seen in Frozen Belle a few times. And for some reason, I have no idea why, the video suspiciously cuts off as soon as Elliot's about to interact with it. He's seen jumping towards it as if it's going to take him somewhere. Maybe to a different level, or maybe even Self, considering Self as a secret boss. It's very, very interesting. I don't really have anything else to say about this one as some of the other ones, but it's very, very strange. The first mystery is all the way at the far end of the wilderness where the giant ship is, and this ship is not connected with any quests, any mini-quests, and it's right next to a mysterious volcano as well that also serves no purpose. I'm assuming this is partially unfinished because if you look on the deck of the ship, there's barrels that are colored the same exact way as the ship is. It kind of seems unfinished to me. I don't know. There's also a few skeletons nearby the ship as well. I'm assuming they're connected with it, and one of them has the examine text. It looks like a victim of war, so I'm assuming this was part of the God Wars or something. But if that's the case, it's kind of strange how there's still skeletons there. You know, you think that would get washed away or something. You would see a lot of old forum posts about this ship and the volcano talking about what its purpose is, if there is some sort of Easter egg you can get where I don't know what would actually happen. Maybe a skeleton would pop out of the ship or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's not much else to say about the volcano and the ship. I guess it could be there for role-playing purposes too. You know, not everything needs a purpose. My theory on it, I think it could have been for another pirate-related quest, maybe a sequel to one of the pirate quests. Not exactly too sure, but it kind of feels that way, even though it's all the way in deep wilderness. Display tee, this one is pretty interesting. It's one of those items that had trouble transferring from RS1 to RS2. It's kind of like the sea slug from RS1 where you could actually telegrab it. And in RS2, you know, the guy flicks it off your head, but you can't do anything. I don't even think it appears in RS2, actually, now that I think about it. It doesn't appear on the ground or anything. It might. I don't really remember. I haven't done that quest in a long time, but when you read the description of the display tea when you telegrab it in RS1 from the Varrock tea stall, it says, "A nice cup of tea for display only." And apparently people were using this in scams, so Jagex renamed the tea to the regular cup of tea and made the display tea untradeable. I don't know if this was in RS1 they did that or RS2. I have a feeling it was in RS2 it was actually tradable for some time. I'm not sure though. Along with this, the display tea which rested on the tea stall was replaced with a normal cup of tea as well. This is the Karamja warship that everybody already knows about, but I decided I'd talk about it anyway. This was released on the 12th of December in 2002, and it has a play with option, and when doing so you get this dialogue. You pretend to sail a ship across the floor, you soon become very bored and realize you look quite silly. Its examine text says a model of a Karamja warship. This item is considered one of the rarest items in all of RuneScape, as its spawn was removed during the transition from RS1 to RS2. And the only way players could still have this is if they kept the item before the transition. And I think if you drop this on the floor in RS3, I'm reading off script now, I was kind of reading on script there a little bit. You can drop this item in RS3 and it kind of floats above the ground a little bit. Kind of looks pretty odd. I think they changed that option actually, and you can't drop it anymore, it just has a destroy option on, which I'm pretty sure you permanently lose it at that point. But yeah, this is one of the rarest items in the game, so obviously, you know, everybody already knows about it. I think the plates are actually rare, the Broken Dragon plates, or, you know, they released items recently. Well, you know, I say recently, but you know, it was the Golden Scythe around, what was it, 2014 or something? I think it was around 2014, I could be wrong. I stopped playing RuneScape around 2011, 2012. I'm not really up to date with any kind of newer discontinued items, unreleased items. This one is about the statue of the warrior in the wilderness. I forgot what level wilderness this is at, but it's very early on. It's just right above Edgeville, I think. And people assume that this statue is a reference to the old knight, a tribute for him. But this was actually after his passing, so unless it was added, you know, before that, which I've never heard about Jagex ever adding a tribute to someone in the game, that's back in the day like that, you know. Obviously they have player references now. They have Wooks and the, what was that new guild called that they added for Dragon Slayer 2? I'm not sure. But yeah, a lot of people assume the statue is of the old knight, but it predates his passing, so I don't think they would reference him like that when he was still alive. And if it's not him, who actually is this statue for? Which character is this for? What lore significance does it have, being, you know, just seemingly, it's unlike everything else in the wilderness, like I said. Everything else is just burnt and decaying, but this statue just has this green grass glowing around it. All the flowers are blooming around it. It's very mysterious and interesting. The Blurberry badge, or the Gianni badge, was supposedly an item that was released in 2002 that was found in the code of RuneScape, but no reports of players obtaining it have ever surfaced. Its examine text says an official cocktail maker, and the item itself is not within the cache or code of RS2, RS3, or OSRS. It was only in RS1. It's the same deal with the other badge I mentioned, the Gianni badge. Except the description for this one says an official Gianni chef, all lowercase, which most likely means it was unfinished or not in the game. It's strange that the Blurberry badge has capitalization though. I'm interested to know if these are equipable or not, and if so, what would be the point of wearing them? Cosmetics in RuneScape 1 are non-existent for the most part outside of holiday items for Christmas, Halloween, and Easter. So having another item that appears in your character would be interesting. This one is just so interesting to me because it's unclear whether it actually existed at all or not, and you know, I'm assuming if it did exist, there would obviously be screenshots. You know, I would have a few screenshots in my archives about this, but I have nothing, and nobody else online has anything. Supposedly it just did not get put in the game, but there's always a chance that it was, and not a single player ever managed to get it. It'd be very, very interesting to actually see a screenshot appear one day of someone actually wearing this. When I was younger during RS2, I would always wear a Ring of Wealth around with me, because I always felt like it had a secondary effect. The rare drop table one is very underwhelming, so you know, it would be interesting if there was some kind of other hidden effect, and I've heard other people mention this as well. And even on a Jagex livestream for OSRS, I think it was around 2017 or so, one of the gmods, I think it was Mod Reach, said that it did have an effect on clue scroll caskets, and nobody interjected, nobody said anything else about it. Everybody just nodded their heads as if it was a normal thing, and I don't know if they were trolling or not. I have no clue, but yeah, this clue scroll casket effect, I don't think it actually has an effect on clue scroll caskets. That would probably be pretty noticeable, unless it's a very small change in the drop rates. I'm not sure. But yeah, I always felt like the Ring of Wealth had a secondary effect. It's just interesting to think on. Something I always found funny is that this ring would have been really useful in RS1. It's just, rings weren't enchantable back then. I have a feeling like the Ring of Wealth was meant to be in the game back then, along with other ring enchantments, because it's just very bizarre that, it's not very useful in RS2. Nobody needs a Dragon Med Helm anymore. Nobody needs a Shield Half anymore. So, in RS1, this would have been incredibly useful if you're not going after KBD or whatever. KBD for the Med Helm. If you want the Shield Half, this would have been incredible. Something interesting is that the Ring of Wealth and Treasure Trails release 1 month apart from each other, so, just keep that in mind. You probably heard about the Life Rune and how it was going to be used for summoning in RS1, but have you heard about the Time, Reality, and Illusion Rune? These were a group of 3 runes, and I have no idea what they were going to be used for. They were just completely unused. So they could have been for, a new skill that wasn't in the game that could have just been used for summoning or necromancy. Their examine text says an incredibly rare master rune, and there's sadly no, inventory icon. There's no sprites for them. Obviously no models in RS2 because they were never planned for RS2, at least I don't think so. Probably would have heard about that if it was, or it would have been in cache files. But yeah, I have no theories on this one. It was just interesting that there was going to be 3 more runes in the game. Here's an oddity that I doubt a lot of people know about. These are the gardening boots, and these were released in June 6, 2005. So these boots do not do anything, they're just purely for cosmetic sake. I'm assuming that they were probably meant to do something, they just don't. These drop from farmers out of 1 in 64 chance, and like I said, it's just cosmetic, and they kind of don't have any cosmetic value to them either. They're kind of just, regular greenish brown boots. Something that tells me that these were supposed to do something with the farming skill is that it had the same examine text as all the other farming related items before the skill actually came out. Instead of a pair of gardening boots, the examine text said farming skill coming in July, so this was, definitely connected with farming in some way, as if it was meant to do something, but it just doesn't. There's a letter for a reason as dialogue spoken by Larxus during the Champion Challenge, or, just in the room where the Champions Challenge is. It's very strange dialogue. This only happens when you try to teleport out of the room. I have no idea what this is preventing. I'm assuming that this is here just in case you try to teleport away from a fight, because that would probably consume the champion scroll. But that's just my theory. I'm, not going to try to do that. Not going to try to teleport out. I do have a goblin scroll in my bank, but I don't want to waste that or anything. I know that's like the easiest one to get, but still, I don't want to try that out to try to teleport out during that. Something else of note is that, this was written in my blog before, but there's a unused human scroll, like a Leon scroll as well, in the game cache files, and I don't know what that would have been used for. I guess he just gives you that after you do all the other champions. I don't know. Don't know what that would have been used for. I also find it odd that there was no reward for this back in the day, and that the Champion's Cape was only a thing in OSRS. During RuneScape 2, you did all this for 8,000 Slayer XP or something. It's very strange. This entire minigame, this distraction diversion is very strange. There's like no point to it whatsoever. Except for OSRS with the cape, obviously. There should be a max... I know I'm not maxed yet, but there should be a max cape with the Champion's Cape also combined. That'd be awesome. I accidentally didn't include this on the first blog I made about RuneScape mysteries, but this is about the God Eggs, and... this was such a big mystery back in the day about, what could these be used for, what are they going to be used for, and, the results of what they turned into in the future was disappointing. I think you just got some kind of god-affiliated bird out of the eggs at some point. I think that was during when Summoning was released. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. I think that's when it happened. But, before this, in early RuneScape 2, when these bird eggs existed, there was nothing you could do with them. It's just very strange. You have the Guthix one green, and then you have Zamrock red, and then, you have blue for Saradomin. And you can't do anything with them. Oh, also in OSRS, of course, you can turn them in for the Evil Chicken outfit as well. It's just very, very bizarre stuff. I love stuff like this in video games where you just have an item that doesn't do anything, and obviously you don't need to put an item in the game that does something. It could be there for role-playing purposes, but you can't even trade them either, so I guess it's just for collection's sake. And I believe the rabbit's foot necklace also increases your chances of getting these. I could be wrong on that. That might be for a different kind of nest. This is the magic axe room in Taverley Dungeon. This is a pretty interesting room because in RS1 it actually looks like you have an archway in there from the RS2 login screen before that actually existed. I wonder if that's what they were inspired by to make that room. Again, there's not really too many similarities to it because I think it's a circular room in the RS2 login screen. I think it's a circular room that's shown in concept art. That old CGI art that they made, I love that old art. It was very awesome. But yeah, aside from that, there's actually nothing to do inside this room. I guess it's useful for a Slayer task. I don't know why you would be slaying magic axes, but if you're trying to point boost, I guess. I mean, Turiel doesn't assign those, does he? I don't know. But yeah, there's nothing else to do inside this room. Just a pretty neat looking room. And an RS2, I think it looks less like the archway. I could actually be wrong. I'm just not remembering right now. I didn't look this up before I made this video, so my memory is kind of fuzzy. I can show a screenshot that I took inside that room in RS1, though. I didn't play back in the day, but I do have a screenshot from when the servers were still running, so here it is. I'll put it up on the screen if I can actually find it. It's going to be pretty embarrassing if I can't find it and there's just nothing on the screen, but what can you do? Alright, this is the biggest mystery of all time. I think this was from a postbag from the Hedge Letter, but if you look at this image here, you can see Tim just standing there next to a picture of an air rune for some reason. And on the wall, you can just see, you know, Tim and Crunchy right there. He's admiring the picture of himself and his pal Crunchy. And on the bottom of the image, though, you can actually see giant red text and white highlighting. What does that actually say? What does this say on the picture? Write in the comments what you think this actually is, because I have no idea what that could possibly say. So I have no idea when this was added, but my husband was showing me this one gmod's tweet last year about this unused line of code in the game that's apparently related to using rock cakes on ducks. There's this unused interaction that was apparently too inappropriate for the game or just not really suited. It wasn't in good taste. Yeah, apparently someone didn't like ducks at Jagex. Who knows what the interaction was? I don't think there's any way of actually knowing. But I don't know how someone found out about this. Someone approached a Gmod about it, but you can't actually see what the interaction is. So this one's really weird, actually. You know how in the Haunted Mine quest you can get a damp tinderbox? There's actually another way to make your tinderbox wet, but it doesn't change the actual item ID. It's still the same item. If you try to bring a tinderbox to the fishing platform, there's a unique line of dialogue that says it's too damp to actually use it here. And if you want to light a torch on here, for example, you actually have to just light it off the fishing platform and then bring it on. If I'm remembering correctly, you do actually light a torch during this quest, the Sea Slug quest, but nobody really thinks to use the torch on the sea slugs themselves or the fishermen here. You actually get a unique animation that plays when you do so, and also unique chat interactions. It's kind of strange, actually. It's kind of funny the sea slugs are scared of that. I think a lot of people know about this one, but you can use fire spells on the mummies. I don't know if any other kind of fire-related items will work on these if you try to use fire-related items on them. But if you use fire spells, they will burst into flames, and they have unique examine text afterwards. And it's kind of strange. If you keep right-clicking, it'll keep labeling the NPC as something different. Like, it'll just say mummy ashes or something, I think. It's kind of funny. But yeah, no, these things will just burst into flames if you use fire spells on them. I have Gnome. This is one of the items that I meant to have on the first part, but there's not really much to say about it. That's kind of why I didn't add it before. It's an Eye of a Gnome that's found in Apatol inside of the magic shop. It doesn't really do anything despite sounding like an herblore ingredient as well. Like, this could very well just be an herblore ingredient, but it's not. It could have been added to add more flavor to Apatol and make it stand out from the other areas in the game, but aside from that, there's absolutely nothing to do with this Eye of Gnome. I mean, you can play with them, though. I mean, you can throw them around and everything. It's kind of fun, right? I wanted to talk about some instances of item duplication throughout RuneScape's history. I won't talk about the recent item duplication glitches, as these points are mostly about RS1 to late RS2. And I also won't talk about kite neeks as well, because I feel like everybody already knows about that. You know, the price of party hats now are just caused by him duplicating a whole bunch of rares back in the day. And Jax decided not to roll it back. I should say the Gower brothers decided not to roll it back. But this topic is mostly about the Archer Ring situation, the Mage's Book situation, the Dagon High set, just stuff like that. So I think what the Dagon High set is during the quest, while Guthix sleeps, you could actually just take the Dagon High set out of a drawer and then leave the room and go back. And I've never done this before. I played around '08. I don't think I've ever done that quest when I was a kid. I don't think I've ever actually done that. But you could take the Dagon High set out, and I think the body out for, what was it, 75k or 80k? I don't actually remember. But it was an absurd amount, and you could actually just take it outside of the room and go back in, you'll get another set again. It's like took place in an instance, I guess. But yeah, that Dagon High set, I don't know how long that lasted for. I think it was up until 2011, which is actually insane if that's the case. I don't really have a lot of information on this. The information is kind of scarce, but yeah, with the Archer's Ring, it was a different situation, though. It wasn't actually caused by a bug in the game or anything. It was more so Jagex trying to figure out an item recovery system. Let's say a player lost their items due to a glitch or something. Apparently someone lost their Archer's Ring, and instead of just giving them a single Archer's Ring back, I believe Jagex gave them, I don't know, 6 million of them. Maybe they meant to give them back 6 mil, but they just gave them 6 million Archer's Rings instead, and the price just absolutely, went from 900k to 5k over the span of a few days. And obviously it was worth 6 mil before, if that was the GP they're giving back to them. Again, I might have some information wrong here, but that was the gist of it. The same kind of situation might have happened with the Mages books, because those should always be a high price. They should never go down to something like 10k, but they actually did. These Mages books, who knows what happened? Maybe a similar glitch. I think it might have happened around the same time. I'm not really too certain. It might have happened around 2014. But yeah, Mages books just absolutely dropped in price by an absurd amount. It's absolutely insane. Oh, so I went and checked. Apparently the robe top, the Dagon High robe top, out for 72k. It's just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's not like it matters too much since the Squeal of Fortune was released a few years later, but I remember for another video game mysteries video I uploaded, there was someone in the comments that complained that I didn't get footage for a certain topic. And, I understand for a certain part I should probably always have footage, but I don't want to actually play through Monkey Madness again for this one. I'm not going to create another character. I'm not going to put a bond on it just so I can go and do Monkey Madness for a 10-second clip, Not going to be doing that. But anyway, this is about the Enchanted Gold Bar that you get during Monkey Madness 1. And you can actually talk to this Enchanted Gold Bar, and it says stuff like, I'm stuck in this horrible gold bar and get me out of here. And if you don't have the Amulet of Monkey Speak equipped, it'll just make monkey noises. It's actually pretty funny. You can light Joger Bones and use them as a regular fire. You can also superheat them, which gives you magic and cooking experience, if I remember correctly. After being lit for some time, the Joger Bones will become burnt, and you can pick them up and get burnt Joger Bones, which can be buried for 16 prayer XP, which is totally not worth it whatsoever. But, there you go. If you want some quick prayer XP, if you're down in a dungeon somewhere, you need 16 experience left to get a level, there you go. You also get burnt Joger Bones if you use superheat on them as well. You can also use Joger Bones on a fire and get the message, you heat the bones on the fire, but they don't look any different, or something along those lines. For some strange reason, you also need 30 fire making to light them, and if you don't have that, you are given a message in the chat that says something similar to, you could find another way to light these. I wonder why there are so many unique interactions with these bones. It kind of reminds me of those strange org bones that for some reason Gardor doesn't drop. I mean, I get it would be a little bit too OP if you just dropped those instead of the regular big bones, but this one is about the Fremennik Slayer dungeon, specifically about the Korasks and their size. So there's a single Kurask in the game that's bigger than the rest of them, and I personally couldn't find this when I was recording. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's in the footage somewhere. I don't know if you guys can tell me in the comments if you see it, if there's one that's bigger than the rest of them, but aside from that, this one isn't too odd because there's other creatures in the same dungeon that are bigger sizes, smaller sizes, but there's apparently only one Kurask that's bigger than the rest of them. Kind of strange, actually. I wonder if it has a different drop table. It probably doesn't, but who knows. I don't remember if there's only one instance of this in the God Wars dungeon or two, but this was added in very late RS2. You can find the word noob written behind some frozen warriors in the snow. This was also added to OSRS. You can see this in there as well. Not much to say about this one. You can just find a little Easter egg in here. Get it? Cool, because it's really cold in the God Wars dungeon. It's kind of, there's many mysteries to talk about when it comes to Karamja and Krandor, but we're going to be focusing on how Krandor used to look in early RS2. I don't really remember what year it actually changed. I think I completed Dragon Slayer around the middle of 06, and I don't remember the island ever looking this way. It was always the burnt version of it, but Krandor used to look like how it looked in RS1. Instead of having burnt ruins everywhere, it looked like a normal island with green grass, trees, and bushes all over it. I don't understand why it looked like this considering the lore. I have to assume it's due to limitations RSC had. There weren't many unique textures in RS1, as you know. I really like the look of the island, though, without the burnt ruins everywhere. It looks really nice, a nice tropical island with all the trees everywhere and whatnot. It's really cool. The brass necklace. Did anyone else used to wear one of these as a kid? I remember when I was younger, I used to think this had some sort of purpose behind it instead of it just being a useless item. And useless items aren't too out of place in a game like RuneScape, but it's still pretty odd. It can't be made through crafting and is obviously dropped by goblins found in the western Varrock Bank downstairs and underneath Edgeville as well. It being found downstairs in the bank is what made me think it had some type of special purpose behind it, despite it being a common drop from goblins as well. And, you can just telegrab it in the bank anyway. But still, maybe it was going to be for some kind of quest that was never implemented or something. Something of note is that for some reason this item was dropped by Moss Giants in RS1 but not in RS2. I always thought that was really interesting. Hey everyone, this is me, TimeLiarG, and welcome to my gmod iceberg. I'm going to be talking about some mysterious topics, some creepy sightings, and some usual stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff on here that everybody already knows about, obviously, so I just hope you like my own commentary on it. Feel free to like the video, watch all the way through, and leave a comment. You don't have to, but it will definitely help me out. The G-Man virus. I talked about this in my last video. The G-Man virus was a supposed virus that would rebind your keys and play a screamer that involved G-Man's face texture stretched across the screen, and it would also open a few adult websites in your browser as well, or just one of them. It's not known if this ever existed, but it is displayed in one of Kitio706's video, God rest his soul. There's a few Steam forum posts on this virus, but that's about the only proof there is on it. Some users also blame specific individuals for this virus as well. Finally, a Grey One. This is a funny rumor of an achievement existing named Finally a Grey One, where the player would have to spawn a grey bouncy ball from the spawn menu, which is actually impossible. There's only a red, blue, green, and yellow ball on there. It's not known who originally came up with this rumor, but it apparently comes from the Russian gmod community. But yeah, this achievement doesn't actually exist, this Finally a Grey One achievement. It's kind of funny, this one rumor about getting a grey bouncy ball also started the rumor that the achievement existed as well. Meaty. I think everybody knows about Meaty at this point. This is the first ghost or creature sighting on the list, and its name is Meaty. This comes from the Russian gmod community again, where supposedly players saw some kind of grey creature with many limbs walking around the map, such as Construct. There's a few things that Meaty supposedly does, but it mostly just lurks around the dark room and walks around Construct, if it actually existed, that is. Anything's possible with some add-ons, there could be some hidden effects and whatnot, but this also comes from the Russian gmod community. I think someone was just playing a joke and they thought up Meaty. They were just trying to scare their friends or something. Also, apparently Meaty likes hanging around the Construct pawn in its spare time as well. RP Bangclaw mysteries. There have been some reports from players hearing noises or seeing figures on the map RP Bangclaw. There's a lot of Steam forum posts on this one as well, so perhaps there's some truth behind it. I heard that the creator of the map supposedly said there was something on it as well. A few people investigated the map but didn't really find anything. There was a few oddities here and there. Right, so I just loaded into RP Bangclaw. I've never played in this map before, so I don't know if there's any... I know that there's tunnels below the map that you can walk around in, and that's supposedly where players have been seeing some creepy stuff. I hear bats. There's, I don't know if I have the volume up enough, but there's... Ooh. Oh. Okay, yeah, I thought someone was, pushing into me. There is noises. There are noises in this map. I'm hearing, screeching. Not like a person screaming or a creature, just, some, metal sliding around or something. Let's hop in here, see what's going on. Oh wow, there's water leeches. it's just some water leeches down there. That's what's GM13 hotels. This is a map with 2 towers and a bunch of rooms inside of them. It also features an area with a few pyramids. People often talk about this map due to a figure known as the Ratman lurking below the map in the tunnels. This isn't actually a myth or a rumor, but a feature of the map. The Ratman is just a stalker from Half-Life 2 and comes with its own story. There's also a jump scare on the map when going into a locked room, among other Easter eggs. What's inside here?
Like a locker room.
Alright, Leatherman.
Like
Can you destroy this?
destroy, where are you?
I'm under the water.
Oh.
Alright, let's go check it out.
Oh, I opened this door, by the way.
Oh, alright. Let's go check out the fire.
Oh my god, this is your place, Aspen.
It is. It's said that a Ratman lives here. Some claim to hear his screams coming from the dark pit.
Wait, how did you where are you reading that?
It's on my screen right now. You don't see that? Maybe he lives
No.
down there somewhere.
I don't see that.
He's talking about a rat man living down here somewhere. And they said they can hear screams.
The broth is getting thicker. Let's see. Tun, 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 tun. It's flashing colors. Oh,
This is where he lives, dude.
alright. Give me a sec. Let's see what is the radio.
Yeah, turn his
nothing.
radio on. Yeah, break. The Construct radio tower. I don't hear people talk about this one too often, but outside the map in Construct, there's this large radio tower with seemingly no purpose behind it. GM Big City Easter eggs. Everybody already knows about these ones, the Easter eggs on Big City, one of the most iconic maps in the game. If you try to enter Cafe Baltic, you get a stalker scream, and there's a slowed down version of Father Grigori's laugh in some alley when you try to interact with a door. The secret phrase achievement. There's an achievement that has been changed a few times. You have to type a specific word in the chat to unlock said achievement. The most recent one is Block Switch, which is a reference to where Face Punch Studios HQ is. The previous phrases were Rusty Bullet Hole and Walsall, England. The Gmod Tower Billboard. The Gmod Tower Billboard was a sign that could supposedly be interacted with outside of the map, which would take you into a different creepy map with a bunch of spooky images flashing on the screen. The person who originally found this was in on the ARG that this was supposed to be. It was also supposed to be some kind of interactive video series that was cancelled as well. GM Adventures. This is a pretty cool map that's a recreation of a real life place that doesn't exist anymore. The Adventures Club at Walt Disney World. There's really not too many maps that, replicate a real life place. There's obviously the nostalgic 7-Eleven map, but aside from that, there's really not too many of them. This map was created by Breraben, hopefully I pronounced his name properly, and they put an absurd amount of detail into it. It's a very intricate and really good recreation of the place. I've personally never been there. It also has some Gmod charm in it in some areas of the map as well, where there's rooms that clearly didn't exist in real life. It's just some rooms that don't make any sense, really.
Garry's mod?
Dude, men. Does it mean there's men in there?
Let's see. Oh my god, it doesn't open. Never mind.
What happened to the mirror, dude? Oh, there's a smoke button.
That's crazy. Is that?
Yeah, it's a giant Nick statue. Maybe we explored everything. I don't know. There's just a small little, nice little room in here.
What about this? What about this?
YouTube's not going to demonetize me because they're not going to recognize that. The Construct water pool mystery. There's been more than a few people online saying they remember the Construct water pool being deeper, with some also saying they remember it leading to a different section of the map, or even some saying they've seen some kind of shadow or creature in the water. This could be caused by other players playing on a modified version of the map or them using plugins. I do have strange memories of this as well, actually. I might have been playing on some kind of edited version of the map, like I said. GM Mobenix is a really cool map with a bunch of RP areas, an area where you can build your own tunnels, a racetrack, and a gnome taxi service as well that takes you around the map. There's not really any mysteries on this map, just a few Easter eggs. Well, there might be a few mysteries that I just missed, but it is a very neat map. There's, I think, 3 versions of it. Or 4. There's 3 or 4 versions, I believe. The cough virus. This was some kind of virus-like script that infected players' clients and servers when downloading certain mods. This virus would keep spreading to players and servers, but was patched by Gary and Valve within an hour. Or at least that's what I've heard anyway. What this virus did was simply cause players to spam cough in the text chat, which also caused a coughing sound effect to play in the game as well. The text spam didn't just happen in Gmod, but also affected players' Steam's friends list as well, where the virus would just, cause you to actually send messages to friends, and, it would spread to other players and everything. Speaking of things happening in Gmod, though, it would also rebind all your keys to be extra annoying. The virus would also change your Steam name and infected friends' names to Vin'll-Fix-It. I don't remember if I was affected by this, but I do remember joining games and seeing this happen. Supposedly a few other things would happen as well, such as loud music playing in servers, an image would pop up showing someone with a carrot, eating a carrot, I should say. Certain characters we put into server names as well, and more. If you want more information on this, you can look it up. There's a lot of information on RP Downtown V2 apparitions, the most famous map for RP and ghost sightings, RP Downtown V2. There's no Easter eggs on this map or anything too creepy about it aside from the underground area with the water, but there's many sightings of ghosts or spirits wandering the map. Opening up the map in Hammer doesn't show anything strange, although that wouldn't disprove some of the sightings if they were caused by add-ons, mods, edited versions of the map, or an actual virtual ghost haunting. I always thought the back of the map was kinda eerie. Nobody really goes back there, so it's always empty even on active servers. I should mention before this one, just like in the previous video, I do not condone piracy. I also do not condone engaging with those who made these posts I'm about to talk about. There is an anti-piracy message in gmod in the form of a fake error message that states unable to shade polygon normals. What this error accomplishes are the pirates going to forums to ask about this fake error and thus getting caught. It's really interesting seeing users talk about this error because only they're seeing this fake error. There's way too many mysteries to cover in Pokemon, so I'll just be talking about 7 or so. If you like the video, you can like it, and you can also read a comment on your own mysteries that you want to see for a part 2. So thank you all for watching, and take care. This memorial site for this man's Onyx always stuck out to me. I didn't play the Gen 1 remakes too much when I was younger, but when I reached the Sevi Islands, I kind of just sat around this little island and took in the view. This unique piece of scenery here. And it would always make me a bit sad when I saw this when I was a kid. It's probably the first time in a video game where I actually felt that way. You can place a can of lemonade on the memorial and Tectonic's owner here, and he will give you the TM for a facade. There are some people that thought that this was actually the Onyx buried in the ground, which is pretty funny. I figured there would be more to do here back in the day, but it's just a neat piece of scenery. Nothing else to really see around here, nothing else to really do. When talking about mysteries in the Pokemon games, this one comes up a lot. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, you can find this unique cathedral or church in Hearthome that's impossible to miss. It's a really large structure, and it's completely unique, obviously. There's nothing to do or find in this cathedral. It's completely empty except for a lot of characters who speak some wisdom to you. What gets people the most, though, is how there's no music inside. Normally in a video game that's full of music and you enter an area where there is none, it really makes you think something important is going to happen, a cutscene is going to play, a boss fight is going to start, in any other video game, obviously. Especially in a unique place like this. I and many others online think this is where you would obtain some kind of event item, item distribution, such as the Azure Flute or some other kind of event item. It seems like this place would be very important to the story as well, but there's just nothing here. I have nothing else to really say about this, but it is very, very interesting. There are so many rumors with this one. The Vermilion City construction site. This is probably one of the most popular mysteries in Pokemon. What was this construction site supposed to be in Vermilion City? I'm sure a lot of people beat the Elite Four and came back here to check if anything was built, but it's just nothing ever gets built here whatsoever. And Game Freak had a few chances to do something with this as well, especially in Gold, Silver, Crystal. I haven't played the Let's Go games, but I don't think there's actually anything there in those either. I stopped playing Pokemon after, well, not after Sun and Moon, before Sun and Moon. My last games were X and Y and the Ruby and Sapphire remakes, which I didn't like too much. But anyway, I have no idea what was supposed to be here, what was supposed to be built here, if there was something, cut during development, or it was just always intended to be unfinished. I don't know. I always thought that it was supposed to be some kind of battle facility, like in future games, but not exactly too sure. There's no evidence for that, I'm pretty sure. The Moss Deep Space Station or Space Center and the White Rock. So this is just one category here. I'm just putting these in one category because, the White Rock is connected to the space station. I think that one woman right next to the rock says that the engineers inside the station, pray or wish for luck by the rock or something along the lines of that. I don't really remember what the exact dialogue is, but, I remember a whole lot of videos when I was younger where people would interact with the rock in a certain way, kind of like on Birth Island with the Oxys, to try to get, Jirachi out of it. It would actually show them encountering Jirachi on the White Rock. I think there was one in more recent times showing someone, like, actually traveling to the moon or something to catch it, which was, I think that was more recent. I don't think I saw that when I was too young, but yeah. With some of these rumors and everything, I grew up with Gen 3. I'm only 27, so, I'm sure some viewers are older, and, they didn't see some of these rumors when they were younger. Or if they did, they were old enough to realize, these are distribution events. I think I knew it was a distribution event back then as well. I don't remember if I fell for these before, but I wouldn't blame anyone for falling for rumors like that. But yeah, it is weird how Jirachi is only obtainable through that Coliseum bonus disc. I'm pretty sure it was distributed elsewhere as well, but just the fact it doesn't have a unique area like Birth Island or anything, I always found that kind of strange. I always thought that was pretty odd. But, maybe this one White Rock was, actually meant to be related to Jirachi in some way during the development of the game, considering, you know, the astronauts or whatever would wish for luck, or the scientists would wish for luck near the rock for the rocket launches. So, you know, I always thought that there was at least some connection there. Another number of things that are strange with this place, the space station, a space center, is it barely plays a role in the story whatsoever. If I remember correctly, it's Team Magma wanting to steal something from there and, you know, make a volcano erupt. It seems very, you know, abrupt. I know Pokemon stories are, you know, there's just like barely anything there, but still though, it's just, the plot doesn't make any sense whatsoever during this. I guess maybe the development could have been rushed at this point. It's still very strange though if you actually read the dialogue. One of the engineers inside actually says your playtime in a cryptic manner as well. It says the number of weeks you've played instead of hours. And even stranger is that you can't access this place when Groudon or Kyogre are causing the weather issues as well. Which I don't remember if there's any other place like that where you're blocked off from going somewhere during that moment in the game. The games, I should say. But it's very strange that this building in specific is locked during that moment. I don't know if that's some programming quirk or what. I personally can't think of anything. And I would mention the differences in between Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald, but yeah, that's probably them changing the design of the space station in between games just because they weren't satisfied with it. I don't think there's a mystery there. In Ruby and Sapphire, it was just the generic green building, and in, you know, Emerald, they added the rocket behind it, and it looks a whole lot better. I think there's an item behind it in Emerald. I could be wrong. That's just what I'm remembering. But no, this entire place is very strange. It is definitely odd. A lot of rumors I could talk about with it as well. The Altering Cave. This is just a troll. This is an absolute time waster. So Altering Cave is a cave that opens up after you beat the Elite Four in Emerald. It is not in Ruby and Sapphire. It is in Fire Red and Leaf Green though. It just goes under a different name, I think. I don't remember what it was called in that game. I only visited it once because I had my fair share in Emerald, because I spent probably, I want to say, a week and a half going back to the cave to see if anything would open up. My one friend did the same, and we spent hours upon hours just trying to figure out what to do with it, because, you know, I had access to the internet back then, but I don't think I bothered looking it up, actually. And normally we watch YouTube videos on this stuff. There was one rumor that we saw saying you could get mythics there, but we didn't believe it. You know, I was smarter then. I didn't fall for that, but eventually I actually did find a shiny Zubat in the cave, which was awesome. And I kind of wish I kept that. I wish I kept my game cartridge, because, you know, I deserve something for, you know, just climbing inside this random cave for who knows how long. I don't know how many hours it was. It was definitely over the span of a week, though. And, you know, nowadays everybody knows that this was just to distribute Gen 2 Pokemon. I don't know if it was only inaccessible in America, that event, or if they made it accessible over in Japan. I'm not exactly too sure. I didn't really look into it too much. But yeah, this was going to be a place where you could go to get Gen 2 Pokemon during an event. Again, don't know where this event was available, if it was available at all. I know it was unused in America, though. I'm pretty certain on that. It was just pretty funny. I managed to find a shiny Zubat in here. I didn't connect the two. I didn't think that this cave would give me a higher chance of getting shinies. I figured it was just random chance due to how long I was there. But yeah, it's really interesting. You have this cave here that only opens up after you beat the game. Really makes you think like there's a legendary there, because that's normally what happens. You know, you beat Pokemon. What do you really do in the post game aside from getting legendaries? You know, just it's pretty funny just having a cave that with nothing in it just drives you insane. I love stuff like that in video games. I know everything is data mined now, sadly, but, you know, next time you get a new game that's hopefully not filled with propaganda, you know, next time you buy a new game that's made by some kind of wholesome indie developer, just maybe not look at guides, don't look up anything online, just cruise through the game without any knowledge on it beforehand. You know, just experience that. Would be pretty fun to do. Smeargle's tail colors. So they just really couldn't figure out which color they wanted on Smeargle's tail. You know, originally it was this pinkish red color. And I'm just going to call it red from now on, by the way, to keep it more simple. But You know, it started off as red, except at the same time in strategy guides, I believe, it was depicted as green officially. Like, this was official art, it was green. But in the game, it was red, you know, gold, silver, crystal. And then in Pokemon Stadium, too, you had... I think what the deal with the Stadium games was if you nickname a Pokemon, it changes its color slightly. I could be completely wrong in that. I barely played those games. I didn't own it for that long. I believe I rented it out somewhere. My father, you know, rented it out for me. I haven't played those games that long, but I think what I've read online is that's what the concept was. So a Smeargle's tail color in that is it's just completely random. There's like purple, blue, you know, the red color and the green. I think there's green. So you have that in Stadium 2. And because Coliseum and XD reuse, you know, models from the Stadium games, you know, it's red in those games as well. And when it's shiny, it's blue. And then I'm probably going to get confused saying all this stuff. I'm reading off script right now. But, and then, you know, in just Pokemon, you know, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, it's just... It goes back to green, and I believe it stays like that permanently. And aside from that, they couldn't decide what color they wanted, and there's probably some examples I'm missing with this as well. But, I don't know, it's just some kind of oddity with Smeargle's tail color. Speaking of Smeargle and the Altering Cave, this is very similar to the Altering Cave, so... You know, it's called Artisan's Cave. I guess the original intent was just to have Smeargle in it, because that's the only thing that's in here, aside from some vitamins you can find. But this is I don't want to say giant, but it's a rather huge dungeon-like room with just vitamins all over the place and Smeargle. I feel like this was something else originally in development because it's big enough where you would have some of those rock puzzles, you know, even though they're not in here. I'm just saying this feels like a room where you would have rock puzzles on a legendary or something. It's very strange that, you know, you just have this cave. I want to say with nothing in it, but, you know, Artisan's Cave, Smeargle, it just has Smeargle in it. Very strange stuff. And, you know, just the way you enter it and exit it in the Battle Frontier in Emerald is just, you know, it's not in any other game. It's not in Fire Red or Leaf Green. It's such an obscure location as well. You know, you have to fight that Sudowoodo, and then you go down the waterfall, you head to the left, and there's the cave. And you walk through the cave, and you go up to the top, and there's just this unique area just for Smeargle. Why? Why is this here? I have no theories for this, aside from the fact that it might have had a legendary at some point. I don't know. You know what would be cool is if... I apologize for the shiny hunters out here for even coming up with this, but... You know, it would be a very cool place to have one of those scripted shiny events. Like, you would just have a shiny Smeargle in here. You know, maybe they were going for that. I don't know. Probably not. The legendary thing seems more likely. Just, I don't know. You know, like, if you really wanted to make a cave full of Smeargles for some reason, just have some kind of place like the Altering Cave. Don't, and by the way, why didn't they just put them in the Altering Cave? I honestly, I have no idea what's going on here. Maybe if you look at the map from Skyview, it's just a giant Smeargle face or something. Event-only areas. This one kind of extends to other video games as well, but I absolutely love the concept of limited time areas, events, Pokemon you can get where, you know, I've only experienced one of these, and that was the Seabreak Path with Shaman. Like, seeing that giant new area, well, I say giant new area, it's literally just a straight line heading into the water, but you know, that's a memory that will stick with me forever, for eternity. And that's the thing with these limited time events where you travel to islands to get mythical Pokemon and whatnot. That's something that not a whole lot of people got to experience. And I know you can obviously access these through other means and whatnot, but actually being there at the time, experiencing these kind of events at the exact moment that they took place live is something that's really amazing. And that's the reason why I put these kind of events in my games as well, so people have these unique memories that will be with them forever, for all of eternity. Since I mentioned the Seabreak Path first, I guess I'll just talk about all the Gen 4 events. There's not really too much to mention with Gen 1 and 2, obviously, because those were just distribution events. You had, you know, the Mew that they distributed in Gen 1. I don't know if that was only in Japan and Australia. That might have been in the US as well. I'm not exactly too sure. And then in Gen 2, you had the Game Boy mobile adapter. where you could get Celebi in Japan only, obviously. And then Gen 3, you had, well, we'll get to those eventually. I just wanted to mention Gen 1 and 2. But with Gen 4, you had, the unused Arceus event. I don't know if they pronounced that a certain way in the anime or the movies. I stopped watching the anime around Gen 3. So, yeah, I don't know how to pronounce Arceus. I apologize. I'll call him Arceus from now on. So, I always found it weird. I think the explanation for them not going through with the Arceus event was that it was too confusing for players. It's like, what? You had the Reggies in Gen 3. It's like, I don't know. That was a little bit strange, but they did distribute Arceus at movie theaters and stuff, I believe. So, that's something. There's probably some other events with Arceus as well. Sadly, you can't actually visit that glass staircase, though, after you have Arceus already, so, couldn't experience that event. You have New Moon Island, I think it was called, or was it New Moon, or was it the other one that has Darkrai on it? I don't know, and, Seabreak Path, which I already mentioned, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think there was any other events for, well, you have the Rotom Room, I don't really count the Rotom Room, though. Aside from that, yeah, there's nothing really else in Heart Gold and Soul Silver from what I remember. I think with the Celebi one, you do go to a unique area. I could be entirely wrong on that. But the thing with Heart Gold and Soul Silver is that Game Freak seemed to do this thing where they would distribute a Pokemon to you, and you already go to areas that are, already part of the main game, part of the main story and whatnot. Yeah, the Gen 3 ones are the ones that intrigued me the most when I was younger, because I would always see videos of them on YouTube where you had these videos showing, and for some reason, they didn't show the Mystic Ticket or, any ways to actually get the Birth Island or Naval Rock or anything like that, or, Faraway Island from you. I would see videos of people opening up, for example, a door in Little Root Town or something, and then all of a sudden being transferred to Naval Rock. It's just those kind of videos that I watched when I was younger would always give me this kind of eerie feeling when I would open up, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald the next time, and then, just think that there's so much more to these games that we don't actually know about. There's so much undiscovered things in these games. Just the possibilities were pretty much limitless, and I really do miss that feeling. Yeah, seeing places like Faraway Island, Birth Island, and not really Birth Island, to be fair. There's nothing really on that. But places like Naval Rock were very mysterious. This has been me, TimeLiarG, and thank you all for watching my hour and 20-minute long compilation of video game secrets, myths, rumors, oddities, and so on. Feel free to subscribe or like the video, and you can also maybe comment something that you find interesting in the video, your own urban legends and whatnot. But may God bless your day, your week, your month, your life, and I will see you all around. Yep.